speaking of movies that they may not have done the best job with overall, we moved to a slasher movie from 2011 titled Edano Pass, which, if you know anything about the history of cannibalism, is like a historical event that took place in the mid-1800s where some cannibalism went down, all that exciting stuff. Pretty much, these people are going to this guy's parents' house in the middle of the, it's a foresty area, Sierra Nevada mountains apparently. So they go to this guy's house. It's a very quiet cabin type place. There's only 4 people there because this kid didn't tell his parents he was bringing anybody over. But then one of them invites other people over and it becomes sort of like a party type thing, 8-9 people over there. And then, hey, people start mysteriously dying off, and oh my god, could it be the ghost of George Dano? It's a pretty bad movie. So I saw this one once before. Again, this might have been 5-6 years ago, and I didn't much care for it. It's not like it's a terrible movie. I mean, honestly, for the first maybe 40 minutes or so, it's not great, but it's okay. But then once the ending comes along, I really didn't care much for some of the aspects that they went with, and I have a few things to say about this one. But have you happened to see this one before?
Nope. Yeah, so I first watched this just a couple of days ago. The opening to this one was okay, but then it transitioned to a douchey guy in a backwards cap telling the story. And then it kind of just turned into the usual teen bullshit horror movie where, a bunch of teens acting like idiots, drinking, and yeah, some of it was just...
it was pretty generic throughout.
I mean, they've got this one guy, Derek, who thinks he's such a badass, but he's actually just bad and an ass. So, I think a big part of this is that I didn't really care for the characters, which has a pretty big effect on this particular type of movie, because even though, yes, there is a bit of a killer going on in the background, there's not a whole lot of that. And later on we find out that there's a little bit more going on than just a killer. Yeah, so we're really down to these characters. I'm not saying every single one was annoying, but I think the majority of them were either annoying or just... who gives a fuck, So that's probably the biggest part where this movie goes down. Hey, at least they managed to throw some tits in there at one point, so it's not all bad, but yeah, it's not all that good either.
Yeah, the best I can really say about this one is I do like the snowy, foresty setting. The main cabin itself is pretty nice too. So it has an interesting, mildly, vaguely interesting location. But given that most of the characters are unbearable, the situation's deeply annoying. Like, once those guys get to the house, they're like, oh, hey, we can stay here, dude, can't we? And, they just pretty much stay at his house without his permission, so that's fantastic. Despite that quiet guy's, he has a bit of a story to him, but despite what goes on in the movie, I feel like he's one of the most sympathetic characters. Because these other people are just, like you say, just douchey and pretty much dicks, so who cares?
Yeah. And there's also a rape subplot in this movie that just felt like filler. Like it really had nothing to add to the actual what's happening in the movie. It was just there to make the movie more interesting, but it was ultimately unnecessary.
Yeah, I did think it was I would say surprising, but it seemed like something that they brought in for almost not much of a reason, maybe just to make the situation a little more complicated. Because then it's one of the murders actually done not by the killer but by somebody else, and obviously we see how that goes. But I know it's not like the addition added much to the movie. I'm not sure if it really took much away, because it's not like the movie was going to high places anyway.
Yeah. And also, like, towards the end, there's a situation where I believe the character's name is Mike. I guess he ends up being considered the hero. But he's put in a situation where does he leave his girlfriend to die, or does he try and save her? And he basically leaves. But to be honest, it was a little predictable because I knew he was coming back. Like that, they tried to create this dramatic scene, which, to be honest, I thought it fell a bit flat.
Yeah, but I thought it's pretty obvious, Of course, if the choices are, hey, leave or stay and try to help, I mean, makes sense if you just look like you're leaving and you can pop back 3 minutes later and probably be a lot more use.
Yeah.
Which is, hey, exactly how it happened. Spoilers.
To be honest, I don't even really... I mean, I only watched this a couple of days ago, and I've already forgotten pretty much all the kills, except for maybe the axe. Like, there's an axe kill outside.
Was that the hot tub one?
No. Well, I kind of remember what she drowned or...
I'm not saying the hot tub one's great, but the reason that one sticks with me is just how quick it happens. Basically, we see this guy urinating, and then behind him, we see this guy just come up, boom, and walk away, and while he's taking care of his own business. So I sort of like how they filmed that. It's not enough to make it like, a great kill, but I thought it was, oh, hey, that's almost sort of cool.
Yeah, but I mean, even if you're trying to watch a movie with some cool kills, nothing special here. I mean, it's not terribly done in terms of the kills, but a week from now, are we going to recommend anything in this movie to anyone? Probably not.
No. I see that on IMDb this has at least a couple thousand ratings, so it might have had an okay, I guess, DVD release when this came out. Maybe they got some people's attention, but I can't imagine this being a movie that, people are going to want to bring a bunch of friends around to watch, because you can pretty much see the same type of thing in almost any other slasher movie, and half the time it's going to be battered down.
Yeah. It's hard to tell when and where all the people who rated the movie, like when and where they'd seen it, because I watched it on Tubi, and, it's free, so who knows, maybe a lot of people watched it when it came out, or maybe a lot of people watched it now that it's on a free service. Who knows?
Yeah, I think it's on Amazon Prime too, which is how I watched it. So that could certainly bring some people in. But I mean, with that, I guess my thing is with the amount of choices on any given service like that, it's going to be difficult to pull anybody in a direction to begin with. Yeah, so I feel like if you want a decently based snowy slasher movie, you have plenty of other options. That means you don't need to watch this movie. This is a movie that I bring up every now and again, and I used to get laughed at for. But there's a movie called Iced from the late 80s, which is, it's super low budget, but hey, it's fun. And it may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I enjoy fun, low budget slashers, so Iced is a pretty good movie. There's a movie from the mid-1980s titled Satan's Blade from 1984. Which has a very similar premise to Iced. And that's another one that's highly recommended, somewhat of a low-budget slasher. So there's certainly some good snow-based slasher movies out there. Dano Pass, despite being a newer movie from 2011, it's just not that good. It's pretty run-of-the-mill, and I can't think of much of a reason to really recommend it. Even if you're interested in the whole cannibalism aspect, there's not really like a whole lot of that in this movie. And what they do have isn't really explicit. So I would say like Cannibal Holocaust or something. So for this movie, I think I'm just going to give this like a 5 out of 10. It's pretty unremarkable. And I can't imagine a situation in which I'd sit down and watch this one again.
Yeah, I'm pretty much... Yeah, I pretty much agree with all that. I don't envision myself ever caring to come back to watch this again. Look, I didn't have a totally terrible time with it, but yeah, there's nothing there that I would say I enjoyed enough to come back and watch again. Like I said, it actually opened okay. I thought we were going to get a completely different movie to what we ended up getting. I didn't know it would turn into this teen horror thing, but it did, and so...
Were you hoping for more like a Ravenous type movie?
Yeah, well, that's what I thought it might lean more towards, because when I look at it on Tubi, it said it was like a horror western comedy or something
God.
like that. Don't quote me on the comedy part, but it definitely said western in there. You know, and to be fair, the opening did have a bit of a western vibe to it, I guess, but after those 5 minutes, the movie never really had any of that. So I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 10, and I don't know. I definitely wouldn't recommend it to anyone. I'm not saying if you watch it you wouldn't at least have an okay time with it, but there's just nothing special about this movie.
Yes.